I'm glad you're here tonight. This is one of those hours when the world finally loosens its grip. The noise fades, the day stops asking things of you, and you're left with the quiet companionship of your own thoughts. If you're listening from bed, maybe the covers are already pulled up. Maybe the room is dim. Maybe you're not tired in the way you used to be, but not fully awake either. Just present. At this stage of life, lying down isn't just about rest. It's about what follows the stillness, the memories that arrive unannounced, the small moments that echo back from years gone by, the voices, the feelings, the versions of yourself that seem to surface only when everything else goes quiet. This isn't a space for rushing towards sleep. It's a space for noticing, for letting the day settle, for allowing the echoes of a lifetime to pass through gently, without needing to explain them or push them away. So take a slow breath. Let your body sink a little deeper into the mattress and allow this moment to be exactly what it is. And now, before we begin, if this kind of honest, gentle reflection speaks to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And down in the comments, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. There's something comforting about knowing we're all here together, scattered across time zones, but united in these late hours when the world finally grows still. So settle in, adjust your pillows, find a comfortable position, and know that for the next hour, you're not alone in whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, whatever rises to the surface when the lights go out. Let's begin. You're lying in bed right now, and the covers are pulled up around you. This simple act, this pulling up of blankets, this tucking yourself in, it's something you've done thousands of times, tens of thousands of times, every single night of your life since you were a child, small enough to need tucking in by someone else. And tonight, as the weight of the blanket settles over you, as the warmth begins to build in the cocoon you've created, the echoes begin. They always do. The memories rise like steam, like breath made visible in cold air. A lifetime of moments, all connected by this single gesture. Covers pulled up, safety sought, comfort created in the darkness. You remember being small, so small that the bed felt enormous. The blankets were heavy then, almost too heavy for your little body. Your mother tucked you in, or your father, or a grandmother, an aunt, someone who loved you enough to make sure you were warm and safe before the night began. You remember their hands smoothing the blankets, the particular way they pulled them up to your chin, the gentle pat they gave after everything was arranged just right. You remember their faces in the dim light of your childhood bedroom, the tenderness in their expressions, the care they took with this small ritual. They're gone now, most likely, or old themselves, or distant, or changed beyond recognition. But in this moment, under these covers, you can feel their hands again. You can see their faces. You can hear their voices saying, "Good night, sleep tight, sweet dreams, I love you." The words every child should hear, the words you heard if you were lucky. And you were lucky in this, even if you weren't lucky in other ways. Someone loved you enough to tuck you in. Someone cared whether you were warm. Someone wanted you to feel safe in the darkness. This matters. It shaped you. It taught you that nighttime could be gentle, that vulnerability could be met with care, that the act of lying down and closing your eyes didn't have to be frightening. You learned what safety felt like, under covers pulled up by loving hands, in a bed where someone made sure you had everything you needed. This was your first experience of sanctuary, your first understanding that the world, at least in this small space, could be trusted. But there were also nights when you weren't tucked in, nights when you were left alone too soon, when you were scared and no one came, when the darkness felt too big and the house too quiet, and you pulled the covers up yourself over your head completely, creating a cave, a hiding place, a fortress against fears you couldn't name. You remember those nights too, the ones where the covers weren't comfort but armor, where you lay rigid beneath them, listening to every sound, convinced that something terrible was about to happen. The covers couldn't actually protect you. You knew that even then, but they created an illusion of safety, a boundary between you and the darkness, a barrier that felt better than nothing. You learned to self-soothe in those moments, to calm yourself, to talk yourself down from panic, to breathe slowly and count slowly, and tell yourself stories until the fear subsided enough to allow sleep. These were hard lessons for a child to learn alone, but you learned them. You survived those nights. You're here now because you made it through. The covers hold all of this, both kinds of nights, both kinds of memories, the tenderness and the fear, the care and the loneliness, the warmth of love and the cold of abandonment. All of it layered into the simple act you perform every night without thinking. You grew older, you became a teenager, and suddenly the covers meant something different. Privacy, independence, a space that was yours alone. You'd close your door and climb into bed and pull the covers up, and beneath them you were free to be whoever you really were, away from the expectations and judgments of the daytime world. You read under those covers with a flashlight when you were supposed to be sleeping. You stayed up too late thinking about the person you had a crush on. You cried under those covers over rejections and embarrassments and the particular cruelty of adolescent social dynamics. You touched yourself under those covers, discovering your own body, learning what pleasure felt like, carrying shame about it that took years to unlearn. The covers witnessed your transformation from child to adult. They saw you change. They absorbed your tears and your sweat and your secrets. They kept you hidden while you figured out who you were. They gave you permission to be messy and confused and desperately, achingly yourself. You remember the bedroom you had as a teenager, the posters on the walls, the particular way the light came through the window in the morning, the sounds of your family moving through the house while you lay in bed separate from them in your own world. That room is gone now. Someone else lives in that house. Someone else sleeps in that room. But under these covers, you can return there. You can be 16 again, full of longing and hope and terror about the future. Then you left home. You had your first apartment, your first bed that was truly yours. You bought your own sheets, your own blankets, your own comforter. You made your own choices about thread count and color and weight. This felt impossibly adult. Standing in a store, comparing bedding options, trying to create a home for yourself. You remember the first night in your own bed, in your own place. The strange mix of freedom and loneliness. No one to tell you when to go to sleep. No one to check if you are warm enough. No one to say goodnight. Just you and your new blankets in your new space, trying to figure out how to be an adult, how to take care of yourself, how to create safety when no one else was responsible for it anymore. Some nights you succeeded. You pulled the covers up and felt proud, independent, capable. You were making it. You were surviving on your own. The covers witnessed your small victories, your first successful week at a new job, your first month paying all your bills on time, your first real meal cooked in your own kitchen. You'd climb into bed exhausted but satisfied, pull the covers up, and feel like maybe you were going to be okay. Other nights you failed spectacularly. You pulled the covers up over loneliness, so profound it felt like it might swallow you whole. You cried into pillows in an empty apartment and wondered if this was all there was. Independence without connection, freedom without meaning. You were so alone, so completely, devastatingly alone. And the covers couldn't fix that. They could only witness it. Then someone joined you under the covers. A first love. A serious relationship. Suddenly, the bed wasn't just yours anymore. You had to share the blankets, negotiate the temperature, figure out how to sleep beside another person. Their breathing, their warmth, their movements in the night, their presence changing everything about this space that had been yours alone. You remember the first time you fell asleep beside someone you loved. How strange it felt. How vulnerable. How you were hyper-aware of every movement you made, every sound you produced. How you tried to sleep gracefully, whatever that meant. How you woke up worried about morning breath and bedhead and whether you snored. But also how safe it felt. How comforting. How you'd never realized how cold your bed had been until there was someone to warm it with you. How you'd never understood what peace felt like until you could rest your head on someone's chest and hear their heartbeat and know you weren't alone anymore. The covers witnessed this transformation too. From solitary to shared. From independent to interdependent. You learn to compromise on blanket weight and distribution. You learn that some people are blanket hogs and some people kick them off entirely in the night. You learn that sharing warmth requires negotiation and patience and humor. You learn to make love under these covers, to explore another body and allow yours to be explored. To experience pleasure and give it, to be seen completely, literally uncovered, and still feel safe, still feel wanted, still feel loved. The covers came to mean intimacy in ways you'd never imagined as a child. They weren't just about sleep anymore. They were about connection, about vulnerability, about trust. About opening yourself to another person in the darkness and believing they'd be gentle with what you offered. You remember specific nights, anniversary nights, makeup nights after fights, passionate nights, tender nights, nights when you held each other and talked until dawn, nights when you made promises about the future. Nights when you believed those promises absolutely. Some of those promises were kept. Others weren't. Some of those people are still in your life. Others are gone. But the memories remain. They live in these covers. They surface when you pull the blankets up and the familiar weight settles over you. And suddenly, You're 25 again, 30 again, believing in forever with someone who didn't last. You became a parent, if you had children, and suddenly you were the one tucking someone else in, pulling covers up to small chins, smoothing blankets with hands that had once been smoothed over by your own parents. The circle completing itself, the pattern repeating. You remember the first night home from the hospital with your first baby, how you put them in their crib with blankets arranged just so, according to all the safety guidelines you'd memorized. How you stood there, watching them sleep, terrified they'd stop breathing, checking constantly to make sure they were okay. How you barely slept yourself because every sound they made sent you rushing to their side. You remember when they were toddlers and they'd crawl into your bed in the middle of the night, cold feet, small hands, the particular weight of a child's body pressed against yours. You'd pull the covers over both of you and hold them close and feel a love so intense it was almost painful. A protectiveness so fierce you'd have done anything, absolutely anything, to keep them safe. You remember reading bedtime stories under blankets with a flashlight, making tents out of sheets, playing games where the floor was lava and the bed was safety, your childhood games repeated with your children. The same magic passed down, the same comfort offered. You remember tucking them in year after year, their favorite blankets changing, their bedtime routines evolving, their needs shifting from physical comfort to emotional reassurance to simple routine. You learned their patterns, how many times they needed to be tucked in, what songs they wanted sung, what prayers they wanted said, what promises they needed to hear. You told them you loved them every night. Under those covers, you made sure they knew. You gave them what you'd received or what you'd wished you'd received. You tried to create safety for them, to make their nights gentle, to let them believe the world could be trusted, at least in this small space, at least while they were under your roof. Now they're grown. If you had children, they don't need tucking in anymore. They have their own beds, their own covers, their own lives. Maybe they're tucking in their own children now. Maybe they remember the way you smooth their blankets. Maybe they repeat your words to their own kids, the echo continuing forward in time. Or maybe they don't remember. Maybe those nights you spent carefully creating safety have faded from their memory. Maybe they take for granted that bedtime was peaceful because you worked so hard to make it so. This hurts sometimes. The invisibility of care, the thanklessness of parenting, all those nights, all that love, and maybe they don't even remember. But you remember. Under these covers, you remember every version of yourself. The child being tucked in, the teenager hiding, the young adult figuring out independence, the lover learning intimacy, the parent offering care. All of these selves exist simultaneously in this moment, in this bed, under these particular blankets. You've had different blankets over the years, different beds, different rooms, different homes. You've moved and upgraded and downsized and rearranged, but the act remains the same. Pull the covers up, settle in, face the night. The covers you have now are probably nice. You've learned what you like, what weight feels right, what material breathes properly, what color makes you feel calm. You've invested in your comfort because you've learned that sleep matters, that rest matters, that taking care of yourself isn't selfish, but necessary. These covers are expensive, probably, good quality, the kind you researched before buying, the kind you wash carefully according to instructions, the kind you replace when they wear out, because you deserve comfort. You've earned comfort. After all these years, after everything you've been through, you deserve blankets that feel good against your skin. But sometimes, you miss the old ones, the worn ones, the ones that were threadbare and faded, but familiar, the ones that carried memories in their fibers, the ones that smelled like home, whatever home meant in that particular era of your life. You had a favorite blanket once. Maybe you still have it, packed away somewhere. Maybe you gave it to your child. Maybe it wore out completely and you had to throw it away. But you remember it, the exact texture, the exact weight, the exact feeling of pulling it up to your chin. That blanket witnessed specific moments of your life. It knows things. It held you through things, and losing it or storing it away felt like losing a witness to your own history. The covers are witnesses. They're present for everything. Every version of you that's ever existed in bed has been covered by blankets. They've absorbed your tears during breakups. They've been kicked off during night sweats. They've been clutched during nightmares. They've been tangled during passion. They've been arranged during illness. They've been your companion through every night of your life. They know when you're sick. You pull them up differently when you're ill. Higher, tighter, trying to trap warmth against chills, trying to create a healing cocoon. You've spent countless nights sick under covers, feverish and aching, waiting for morning, waiting for medicine to work, waiting to feel human again. The covers witnessed your worst nights, the nights after you got terrible news, the nights after funerals, the nights after betrayals, the nights after losses so profound you didn't think you'd survive them. You pulled the covers up on those nights, and they couldn't fix anything, couldn't heal anything, couldn't change anything. But they were there. They stayed. They covered you while you shattered. You've pulled these covers up over grief, over rage, over despair, over loneliness so complete it felt like a physical presence in the bed beside you. The covers saw all of it. They witnessed every worst moment. And they never judged. They never left. They simply stayed, offering the only comfort they could. Warmth, weight, presence. But they also witnessed your best nights. The nights you came home from triumphs. The nights you celebrated victories. The nights you fell asleep smiling because something wonderful had happened. The nights you pulled the covers up feeling grateful, feeling lucky, feeling like life was good and you were exactly where you were supposed to be. The covers know both versions of you, the broken and the whole, the despairing and the hopeful, the sick and the healthy, the alone and the accompanied. They've covered all of it without discrimination. They've been neutral witnesses to your entire life as it's been lived in bed. And now you're here, tonight, pulling the covers up one more time, adding one more night to the thousands already lived, creating one more memory that will echo forward into future nights. You're lying here under blankets that will someday be replaced, in a bed that will someday be sold, in a room that will someday belong to someone else. But right now, in this moment, this is your space. These are your covers, This is your life being lived. The weight of the blanket settles over you, and with it settles the weight of all those years, all those nights, all those versions of yourself. You're not just one person lying here. You're all of them. The child who needed tucking in, the teenager who hid their true self, the young adult figuring out independence, the lover learning intimacy, the parent offering care, the person who survived losses, the person who celebrated victories. All of these selves exist under these covers right now. All of these memories are present. The echoes are loud tonight. They surround you. They fill the darkness. They remind you of everything you've been, everything you've survived, everything you've loved, everything you've lost, everything you've become. You shift beneath the covers now, adjusting your position, seeking comfort. This simple movement, you've done it 1,000,000 times, but tonight you notice it differently. You notice how your body knows exactly what to do, how your hands automatically adjust the blanket, how your shoulders instinctively settle, how your legs find their preferred position without conscious thought. Your body remembers every bed you've ever slept in, every set of covers you've ever pulled up. The muscle memory is stored somewhere deep in your nervous system. Your body knows the ritual of bedtime, the way it knows how to breathe, automatically, essentially, without requiring your conscious participation. You remember the beds that weren't your own, hotel beds in cities you visited, the crisp, tight sheets that felt too formal, the comforters that were too puffy or too flat, the pillows that were never quite right. You'd pull those hotel covers up and feel displaced, like you were playing pretend in someone else's life, like you were a visitor to your own existence. But you'd make it work. You'd arrange the pillows as best you could. You'd adjust the temperature. You'd create a temporary home in a temporary space. Because you're adaptable, because you've learned how to find comfort in unfamiliar places, because you've had to. Some of those hotel stays were adventures, vacations with people you loved. You'd pull the covers up in a hotel room in Paris or Tokyo or some small town you'd always wanted to visit. You'd lie there exhausted from a day of exploration, satisfied, happy, grateful to be experiencing something new. Those covers witness joy, excitement, the particular contentment that comes from living fully. Other hotel stays were obligations, work trips, family emergencies, visits to hospitals where loved ones were dying. You'd pull the covers up in those hotel rooms feeling hollow, exhausted not from adventure, but from grief or stress or the weight of responsibility. Those covers witnessed your duty, your showing up, your doing what needed to be done, even when you didn't want to do it. You remember sleeping at your parents' house as an adult, going home for holidays or visits, sleeping in your childhood bedroom if they still had it, or in a guest room that used to be something else. The covers in those rooms carried complicated feelings, nostalgia mixed with relief that you'd left, comfort mixed with the old tensions that never quite disappear between parents and their adult children. You'd pull those covers up and feel like a child again, small, subject to rules that no longer applied to your adult life but somehow still had power in that house. You'd hear your parents moving around, the familiar sounds of their nighttime routines. And you'd feel the strange duality of being simultaneously an adult with your own life and a child in their home. If your parents are gone now, you can't sleep in their house anymore. That option has been removed from your life. There's no going home in that way ever again. The house is sold or belongs to someone else. The covers you slept under there are donated or thrown away. That particular kind of return is no longer possible. This loss sits heavy some nights. The impossibility of going backward, of being taken care of having someone else's home be a place you belong. You're the adult now. You're the one with the home. You're the one whose house other people visit and sleep in and pull covers up in and feel complicated feelings about. The cycle continues. The pattern repeats. You've become your parents in ways you swore you never would. You hear their words coming out of your mouth. You catch yourself making the same choices they made. You create the same atmosphere they created. And when people visit, when they sleep in your guest room under covers you've provided, they probably feel some of the same complicated feelings you felt sleeping in your parents' house. You remember the worst beds, the ones during the hardest times, after surgeries, during illnesses, in hospitals. The covers in those places were thin and institutional. They smelled wrong. They felt wrong. They offered no real comfort. But you pulled them up anyway, because what else could you do? You were stuck there, in that bed, in that body, in that crisis. You remember lying in hospital beds at 3 a.m, wide awake, in pain, scared, the covers barely covering you, the gown exposing you, the IV pulling at your arm, the monitors beeping, the sounds of other patients down the hall, the nurse's footsteps, the terrible fluorescent light seeping in from the corridor. You pulled those inadequate covers up and tried to create some sense of normalcy, some sense of safety. But hospital beds don't allow for safety. They're places of vulnerability, places where your body has betrayed you or been invaded by illness or needed intervention you couldn't provide yourself. Those covers witnessed your fear, your pain, your profound helplessness. But you survived those nights. You made it through. You healed, or you learned to live with not healing completely. You left those hospital beds and returned to your own bed and pulled your own covers up and felt such relief, such gratitude for your own space, your own blankets, your own control over something as simple as what covers you sleep under. Those experiences changed you. Illness changes everyone. It teaches you how fragile you are, how quickly everything can fall apart, how little control you actually have. You return to your bed different than when you left it, more aware, more grateful, more conscious of how precious it is to simply be home, in your own bed, under your own covers, feeling relatively okay. You think about all the people who aren't in their own beds tonight, who are in hospitals or nursing homes or hospice facilities, who are pulling up covers that aren't theirs, in rooms that aren't theirs, in circumstances they never chose. You think about how much you take for granted. This bed, these covers, this ability to be home. You've had friends who lost this, who ended up in facilities, who spent their final months or years in beds that weren't their own, under covers that weren't familiar. You visited them there. You sat beside those institutional beds. You tried to make conversation while they lay under those thin blankets, looking diminished, looking lost, looking like they wanted to go home but couldn't. Some of them did go home eventually, hospice care in their own beds. You visited during those final days. You sat in chairs pulled close to their bedsides. You watched them under covers you recognized from healthier times. The same blankets, but everything else different. Everything else ending. You held their hands on top of those covers. You said the things you needed to say. You stayed while they slept. You were present for their transition from living to dying, and the covers were present too, pulled up one last time, offering what comfort they could to a body that was shutting down. Those memories live in your own covers now. When you pull them up, you remember pulling them up over people you loved who were dying. You remember the particular weight of grief that comes from tucking someone in for the last time, from smoothing blankets over someone who won't wake up again, from saying goodbye to a body under covers while the person you loved had already left. This is what it means to age, to accumulate these memories, to carry these ghosts, to pull covers up knowing how many times you've done this before, how many different contexts this simple act has occurred in, how many meanings it's held over the course of your life. The covers connect you to everyone you've ever shared a bed with, every person you've slept beside, every person you've cared for, every person who's cared for you. They're all present in this moment, all here under these blankets with you. Not literally, but in memory, in echo, in the residue that experiences leave behind. You think about intimacy, real intimacy, not just sexual, though that too, but the deeper intimacy of allowing someone to see you in bed, vulnerable, unguarded, possibly drooling or snoring or tossing and turning. The intimacy of morning breath and bedhead and the face you wake up with before you've had time to compose it. Sharing covers with someone requires trust. It means they'll see you at your worst. They'll witness your nightmares. They'll hear you cry in your sleep. They'll feel you sweat through night terrors. They'll know things about you that no one else knows because they're there in the darkness when your defenses are down. You've allowed people this access. You've trusted them with your sleeping self. Sometimes that trust was honored. Sometimes it was violated. Sometimes the person you allowed under your covers used what they learned against you, used your vulnerabilities as weapons, turned your worst moments into ammunition for future fights. You learned to be more careful after that, to guard yourself better, to not let just anyone under these covers, to recognize that this space is sacred and should only be shared with people who understand that, who respect it, who'll protect what they witness rather than exploit it. Now you're selective, protective. You know the value of this space. You know what it means to share it. So if you share your bed now, you do it consciously, deliberately, with people who've earned the privilege of seeing you this vulnerable, with people who'll honor what they witness rather than harm you with it. Or maybe you sleep alone now. Maybe you've chosen solitude. Maybe you've been chosen by it. Either way, these covers are yours alone. No negotiation required about temperature or distribution. No accommodation of someone else's sleep patterns. No compromise. Just you and your preferences and your ability to arrange everything exactly as you want it. There's freedom in this. Real freedom. You can spread out. You can take all the blankets. You can adjust temperature without considering anyone else. You can read late into the night with the light on. You can get up and down as many times as you need without worrying about disturbing someone. But there's also loneliness, the particular loneliness of pulling covers up over just yourself, of having no one to warm the cold spots, of waking in the night and having no one to reach for, of experiencing something in a dream and having no one to tell when you wake. The bed feels bigger when you're alone in it. The covers feel heavier. The night feels longer. Both are true, the freedom and the loneliness. You hold both simultaneously. You're grateful for your independence and you ache for connection. You love having your own space and you wish someone was here to share it. You don't resolve this contradiction. You just live with it. You pull the covers up over both feelings and let them coexist. You think about the future, about how many more times you'll do this. Pull covers up, settle in, face the night. You don't know the number, no one does, but you're aware that it's finite, that one night will be the last night. The final time you pull these covers up, or any covers up, you wonder about that night. Will you know it's the last? Will you have time to notice, to appreciate, to say goodbye to this simple ritual that's accompanied you through your entire life? Or will it just end without ceremony, without awareness, without the chance for one final conscious acknowledgement? You hope you'll know. You hope you'll have that moment, that final pulling up of covers with full awareness that this is it, the last time. You hope you'll be able to feel grateful, to recognize the gift of having had so many nights, so many opportunities to seek comfort, so many moments of settling in and resting and allowing your body to restore itself. But you might not get that awareness. It might just end. One night, you'll pull the covers up, and that will be it, and you won't have known. This possibility makes you want to appreciate tonight more. This pulling up of covers right now, this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this one night among thousands. You're alive right now, under these covers, in this bed, in this body. This is not guaranteed. This is not permanent. This is temporary and precious and already passing, already becoming memory even as you're living it, already echoing forward into whatever future nights you have remaining. The covers are warm now. Your body heat has been trapped by the blankets. You've created your own microclimate, your own small ecosystem of comfort. The temperature is just right. The weight is perfect. Everything is arranged exactly as you like it. This is success. This is what you've been seeking, this moment of physical comfort, but your mind is still active, still moving, still processing, because lying in bed has never been just about the body. It's always been about the mind too. The thoughts that surface, the memories that rise, the feelings that demand attention when everything else is quiet. You've tried to quiet your mind. You've tried meditation and breathing exercises and counting and visualization. Sometimes these techniques work. Sometimes they don't. Tonight, your mind wants to remember. It wants to trace the pattern of your life as it's been lived in beds, under covers, in the vulnerable hours of darkness. So you let it. You stop fighting. You allow the memories to come. You pull the covers up a little higher and you surrender to the echoes, to the lifetime of moments that have led to this moment, to the child you were and the adult you became, and all the transitions in between. You think about transformation, how you've been remade so many times, how you've died and been reborn in small ways throughout your life. Each major transition was a kind of death, the death of who you were before. And each one happened in bed, under covers, in the space where you're most vulnerable. You died as a child and were born as a teenager in this space. You felt your body change, your mind change, your understanding of the world change. You pulled the covers up over a child and emerged something different. Someone with desires and fears and questions that children don't have. You died as a teenager and were born as an adult. You left home. You created your own life. You made choices that shaped everything that followed. You pulled the covers up in your first apartment, and you weren't the same person who'd slept in your childhood bedroom. That person was gone. Someone new had taken their place. You died as a young adult and were born as a partner. You merged your life with someone else's. You learned compromise and communication and what love actually requires beyond the initial excitement. You pulled the covers up over both of you, and you weren't separate anymore. You were part of something larger. You died as a partner and were born as a parent, if you had children. Your entire identity shifted. You became responsible for a life beyond your own. Your priorities changed completely. You pulled the covers up knowing someone depended on you in ways no one had depended on you before. This changed everything about who you were. You died as a young parent and were born as a middle-aged parent. Your children grew. They needed you differently. You had to let go by degrees. You pulled the covers up over grief for their childhood, over pride in their independence, over the bittersweet reality of them not needing you the way they used to. You died as a parent of dependent children and were born as a parent of adults. They left. They built their own lives. You pulled the covers up in a house that was too quiet, over a future that looked completely different than you'd imagined, over freedom you weren't sure you wanted, over space that felt empty rather than peaceful. You've died as a healthy person and been born as someone with limitations, illness or injury or simply aging has changed what your body can do. You pull the covers up over aches and pains and restrictions that weren't there before, over a body that's becoming unreliable, over physical vulnerability you can't ignore anymore. You've died as someone's child and been born as an orphan, if your parents have passed. This transformation happened in adulthood, but it still unmade you. You pulled the covers up, knowing no one stood between you and your own mortality anymore. You were next. You were the older generation now. This realization changed you fundamentally. Each of these deaths happened under covers. Each rebirth too. The blankets witnessed every transformation. They were there when you shed old identities and took on new ones. They covered you while you became someone different. They stayed constant while everything else changed. And they'll be there for the final transformation too, the last death, the one without rebirth, into another phase of life. They'll be pulled up one last time. They'll witness your final breath. They'll cover your body after you're gone. They'll be removed by someone else's hands and laundered and used again by someone new. This isn't morbid. It's just true. The covers will outlast you. They'll serve other people after you're gone. They'll cover other bodies, witness other lives, participate in other rituals. Your relationship with them is temporary, like everything else, like everyone else, like life itself. But right now they're yours. Right now you're pulling them up. Right now you're alive and breathing and feeling their weight. Right now you're here. This moment is real. This night is real. This life is real. Even though it's temporary, even though it's ending, even though nothing lasts. Right now you're here, and that matters. The echoes are quieting now. The memories are settling. The lifetime you've lived under covers has been acknowledged, witnessed, honored. All those versions of yourself have been seen. All those moments have been remembered. All those transformations have been recognized. You're tired now, really tired. Not just physically, emotionally, spiritually. The weight of remembering is exhausting. The weight of being alive this long is exhausting. The weight of carrying all these echoes is exhausting. You're ready to rest, ready to let go, ready to allow sleep to come if it will. The covers are perfect now. The temperature is right. The weight is comforting. The darkness is gentle. Everything is arranged exactly as it should be. You've created the conditions for rest. You've done everything you can do. Now it's just a matter of surrender, of allowing, of trusting that your body knows what to do. You breathe slowly, deeply. You feel the covers rise and fall with each breath. You notice the softness against your skin, the warmth around your body, the quiet of the room, the stillness of the night. You're safe. You're comfortable. You're home. You're exactly where you need to be. All those echoes, all those memories, all those versions of yourself, they're all here, under these covers with you. The child who needed tucking in, the teenager who hid, the young adult who explored, the lover who opened, the parent who cared, the person who survived, the person who transformed, the person who grew, the person who learned, the person who loved, the person who lost, the person who continued anyway. They're all you. They're all here. They're all part of this moment, this pulling up of covers, this settling in, this facing of night, this act you've performed thousands of times and will perform as many more times as you're given, each time carrying all the previous times with it, each time adding to the echo, each time part of the pattern. You close your eyes now. You let your body relax. You release the tension in your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. You let everything soften. You allow yourself to sink into the mattress, to be held by the bed, to be covered by the blankets, to be supported by this space you've created. The echoes are still there. They'll always be there, but they're quieter now, gentler, more like distant music than loud demands for attention. They're part of you, part of your history, part of what makes you who you are. But they don't have to keep you awake. They don't have to prevent rest. They can simply be present while you sleep. You've lived a lifetime under these covers. You'll live whatever remains of your lifetime under them too. Each night adding to the echo. Each morning bringing you back. Each cycle of darkness and light continuing until it doesn't. Until the final night. The final pulling up of covers. The final rest. But that's not tonight. Tonight you're here. Tonight you're breathing. Tonight you're alive under these covers. Tonight the echoes are simply reminders that you've lived, that you've loved, that you've been here, that you've mattered, that your life, however imperfect, has been real and full and worthy of remembrance. So rest now. Let the echoes settle like dust. Let the memories rest like you're resting. Let the lifetime you've lived under these covers be honored by the simple act of pulling them up one more time, by settling in one more time, by allowing yourself the comfort you've sought every night of your life. You're enough. You've always been enough. The child who needed tucking in was enough. The teenager who hid was enough. The young adult who struggled was enough. The lover who opened was enough. The parent who tried was enough. The person who survived was enough. And you, right now, under these covers, in this bed, in this moment, you are enough. The fires die down. The stories settle. And the world grows still. Let your thoughts drift away like embers on the wind. Good night. You've journeyed far through time tonight. Now it's time to journey into dreams. Close your eyes, breathe, and let sleep find you.